General election, of course, many people continue to declare their interest in different seats, including Dr. Chris Omalo here, and many more, especially for the presidential election. But also there's that concern. If you have to look at the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see the signs of trouble with Wafula Chebukati, the chairperson of the IEBC, pictured there. And Parliament is apparently sitting on laws required to help plan for next year's general election. The Treasury has reduced and delayed disbursement of funds, and the Communications Authority is yet to ensure 3G connectivity in all polling stations. And gentlemen, if you remember, in 2017, there was that concern that at least 10,000 polling stations did not have the 3G connectivity, and therefore they were not able to transmit the results forms. That is Form 34A from the polling station all the way to the National Tallying Center. But as this happens, listen to what the former head of public service, now Governor of Nyandarua, Francis Kimemia, said on this show last week.
Of course, the state exists.
Yes.
the state exists. But I can assure you it could be deeper than deep. It could be deeper than deep. And if you have, I mean, honestly, if you have two candidates, say at the rate of 50-50, and the deep state, or backs one, then you can be sure that that one will win the election. The candidate must be credible and appointed and electable, and that becomes very, very important. Even if the deep state were to support a candidate. But we are forgetting also the international angle. This country has a lot of interest from the international, and they also influence a lot. I can assure you from where I sat, they influence a lot.
How so?
In many ways that I can't discuss here, but many ways. So if they combine with the so-called deep state, you can be sure your goose is cooked.
All right, if the deep state and the international community support a candidate, if you're not that candidate, then your goose is cooked. That's according to Francis Kimemia. Think about that, but listen to what different leaders have been saying about this over time.
There is something which we were missing, and that's something which we were missing is called system. Some people are saying system is not important, but system is very important. And now we are with Uhuru Kenyatta, who is holding the system. So if the system plus our votes, which are always more than the others, what else?
Tunatishiwa ati iko system, ati iko deep state, ati iko watu watatuibia kura. Hata mkipiga kura namna gani, kuna watu wameketi mahali fulani wataamua. Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa watu tunawangojea. Hiyo deep state tunangojea.
It is the process of having a free and fair election that will guarantee stability and strengthen the democratic process of this country. Anything outside that is dangerous and should not be entertained.
All right, so Dr. Kenan, your reaction to what has just transpired at a time that IEBC is still complaining that there are so many things that are not in place to ensure free and fair election.
I think first, the remarks by my good friend, Governor Kimemia, is not only reckless and timely and completely unhelpful in the context of our national preparation for 2022 general elections. I say this because, yes, there's always be system, there'll always be government, meaning you are referring to technocrats. You remember two events alone can completely debunk that theory by Mr. Kimemia. First, in 2013, the international community said choices have consequences when President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy were in ICC. Kenyans did not go by that. They went ahead and elected President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto when they were in ICC, notwithstanding that threat that choices have consequences. So that debunks completely the first statement by Kimemia. Secondly, in 2017, the Supreme Court, for the first time in an African setting, nullified the elections of presidential elections. What people expected in other jurisdictions, that there will be war, there will be turmoil, it didn't happen. Kenyans accepted, the president accepted. For those of us who are in Jubilee, we accepted grudgingly, we didn't agree with the ruling, and said the court, as an independent entity, must also educate and make their findings based on what they think is correct. So taking on these two, that theory by Mr. Kimemia is not only alarming, but also a defeatist, and therefore nobody should ever count on the support of the deep state, whether you call it the system. It is not true. Count on the votes of the people of Kenya, wherever they are. Court them, persuade them, talk to them, and I agree with the sentiment by His Excellency Mudavadi, that if we'll be banking on the invisible role of non-state actors or public actors that we know, I think will be misleading. Let's court the people of Kenya. Let's seek votes through the usual persuasion, system. And finally, Kenya is lucky. Lucky in the sense that if decisions were going to be made through boardroom, then we are caught in militarism. We are caught in other form of decision making, which has never been accepted by the people of Kenya. So we're lucky. We have had elections. We have had democracy. You can call them. They have had issues from 1963 to date. We have had elections at the end of every 5 years. There were misgivings, whether they were Mulolongo, whether they were elections, whether they this. But I think that is the right approach. Kenyans are beginning to, not only beginning, Kenyans are really, really very informed people. Nobody should take their conscience, nobody should take their rights, nobody should assume them. Let them prepare for elections and vote people of their choice based on their performance, based on how they view them.
And Dr. Kenan, just before I get to Dr. Omalo here, there's something else that Francis Kimemia said, but also we had spoken to Aden Duale a couple of months ago, and he spoke about who the deep state is or are.
They are well connected to state. You'll find them doing business in the security sector. You'll find them business doing in government. And they also play a big role in the formation of governments.
And if these people are going to, if the preferred candidate is going to continue to ensure continuity, either regime continuity or ideological continuity or material, continuity, or the status quo, whatever is preferred.
Every time there's a transition, they go into a panic mood. So either they will, because they want to also be in charge of the next government. So they choose candidates.
How does it work?
Well, it works. All I can say is that it works. So beyond that, of course, it works. The voters vote. So deep state also includes people in the villages. It goes up to the polling station. So it doesn't mean rigging. It doesn't necessarily mean rigging. No, influence doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rig elections. But
So Francis Kimemia there says that you don't have to rig, but the deep state stretches all the way.
Look at 2002. Before even Omalo
just hold on.
We'll have to talk.
You'll get an opportunity. But Dr. Chris Omalwa, and when you listen to that, of course, many of you are very uncomfortable with what Francis Kimemia is saying. But what if what he's saying is true?
First and foremost, I want to say it's not true, and it's very, very unfortunate. My friend Governor Kimemia made such sentiments on the national TV. First and foremost, I want to demystify this. One, in 2002, President Moi was a system. If it's the money, it's everything. He pushed Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Did he win? He never won.
Yes.
Mwai Kibaki won. So it's very, very wrong. You come to the national TV and bring such allegations. It is false. Secondly, when you talk about deep state, the president is the head of the state. If President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was interested in anything, look at the recent by-elections in Juja and Kiambaa. What happened? His candidates flopped. So if he was to use anything of deep state or imagine in any way, Jubilee will have won Kiambaa and Juja. So this issue of deep state is being exaggerated. Some of us, we've won elections by landslide. Where it come from? Without any deep state. So for Governor Kimemia, maybe he should tell us, for him to have been elected the governor of Nyandarua, what role did deep state play for his success? I think at a time like this, we should condemn such utterances, and even media, for you to come up with such allegations like signs of trouble on the headline. I think it is very, very wrong. This is the time we should give Kenyans hope. And I salute Musalia Mudavadi. It's about processes. Once we put processes in place, the systems in place, everything, we're going to have free and fair and credible elections. So we are telling the Kenyans, please, don't be fooled by people that talk of deep state. I've heard it, some other CSs talking about it in my own county. and he's been trying. So to me, I don't believe in the issue of deep state. It is the mandate of the people.
No.
Again, another issue on terms of the international influence, because he has mentioned Kenya is a sovereign state. Kenya is a sovereign state. There's no way we can have international interference in this country, as clearly what Kainan had said. The ICC issue, William Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta, when they said choices have consequences, what did Kenyans do? They decided to elect them to office.
Okay.
So the interference of the international networks or whatever, the extent of which they can influence is significantly insignificant. It's totally impossible. So we are telling Kenyans, please, you play your mandate of electing your desired leaders.
Yes.
No interference of the international network. There's no deep state that should interfere with that.
That's fine.
It's the people to decide.
That's fine, Dr. Wamalwa. But Honorable P. Wandai, we may sit here and say it's not true or it's true, it doesn't work that much, the influence is not that significant. But if the person, no less than a former head of public service and former secretary to the cabinet, former permanent secretary of the security ministry is saying that, should you ignore it?
Oh, Sam, of course, Governor Kimemia could be knowing much more than we do ourselves, and we leave it to him, of course. But I don't want to agree with my friend Honorable Wamalwa on the issue of international community. International community will always have interest.
Yeah, but
because we don't live in an isolation. We are not an island or no our own. People have interest. Even Kenya has got interests in the happenings in other countries. Yes, and you would really want to if where possible, to influence, of course, within the confines of international diplomacy. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily mean interference, in my view. Yes. So the international community will always, and must, in fact, always keep a keen eye on the happenings. But closer home, the state, of course, elements within the state would also have interest. Okay? But that is neither here nor there. The key thing here is that the state has got a duty and a responsibility to ensure that we have got smooth transition. Okay? If only to guarantee the stability of the country. That is very key, really. Okay? But
so how do they do that?
Ultimately, of course, the state provides the infrastructure that is required. Yes, that is required for the conduct of free, fair, credible elections under the Constitution. Okay? So the state must do that. Whether elements within it have got interest or not is immaterial, really, because the also interest will always be there again, as I've said. But critically, Kenyans must be given the assurance and the hope and the confidence that their vote counts. So that is very key. That is the foundation of a democracy, that every single vote counts. And I believe that the way we are moving, that should really happen. Finally, this issue of the IEBC, I don't think we should decide to cause panic. And I agree with Honorable Wamalwa here. The IEBC is now fully constituted. And that's a very big step, in my view. It has got the whole contingent of the commissioners. So they should get their acts right, without really engaging.
But there are certain things, Honorable Pio, there are certain things that are not within control, specific on the question of 3G connectivity. If the law still requires that results forms from the polling stations, from 34A, from the presidential election be transmitted directly to the tallying center through a scan, and that was not possible in 2017. The network infrastructure has not changed.
I'll come to that. On the issue of the preparations for the elections which are coming next year, I don't think there's anything Parliament has not done that they should do. Anybody blaming Parliament is basically looking for scapegoats. There's no law which we haven't dealt with which is required for the smooth management of those elections. If there's any, let us be told. Because I said in Parliament and my colleagues here. Secondly, issues of connectivity are administrative issues. It is upon the IEBC to engage with the Communications Authority and put in place mechanisms to enable the transmission of election results, as is required by law. Really, it's not an issue to keep talking about. So I think the IEBC should get its act right now and prepare fully. Where they require any support, And by the way, I've got full confidence in the IEBC as currently constituted now. Okay, personally, if you ask me, I believe they can do this work. And the chairman and his team should not have any worries anymore that anybody is looking forward to removing them. So let them concentrate, yes, and deliver a credible election, because they have got all the support. And if they need money, of course, they have to justify it. They bring the budget proposal to us in Parliament, and we shall look at it, of course, with a view to supporting them to do their work here.
Dr. Kenan, for the country to get rid of this and call for influence that people may talk about, there has to be an assured infrastructure. That is, the electoral system has to be credible. And actually, Governor Kimemia referred to that, saying that that's why you need accountable institutions like the IEBC. So if some 10 months to the general election, IEBC is still talking about that connectivity, which was a key factor in the 2017 election. And the Communication Authority appears here to have had a meeting with IEBC and said they are going to do an audit and see what can be done. The chairman is on record saying they might have to get satellite phones for those regions, which might prove expensive. Again, they will require resources. How can Parliament facilitate this institution to ensure that there are no chances of vote manipulation or rigging on account of, for instance, connectivity or resource financing?
Thank you. I think there are three aspects to this. One, Parliament has facilitated the workings and funding of key government agencies like the Communication Authority. They have the power, they have the mandate, and in fact there's a provision and even security consideration for them to provide a network. Secondly, we have also provided an enabling framework for independent network providers like Safaricom, like Airtel, out of business and out of also national interest to undertake this. I'll give my own constituency as an example. In 2017, maybe the network covered maybe 50%. Today, it's almost 100%. Meaning, in the next general election, all parts of my constituency will be on 100% network. I believe the same might have happened to other areas. So I think this is a process. It's not just something that can happen one day. Secondly, generally there's a problem in the whole world on electioneering process. You saw what happened the other day in America. You see what is happening right now in India. You saw the other day what happened in Israel. You say generally there's a problem. I think it's up to the people to have confidence in the institutions. I'm glad that today it's coming from my good friend Wandai, that all along we have been saying let's leave IEBC as an independent referee to do their job. I'm glad that my friends in ODM have rescinded the earlier position to push out certain commission. And that is one thing that we have been saying, let's leave the Chupacabra, now that the commission is fully constituted, let's allow them to do their job and give them all the enabling support in terms of budgetary support, in terms of, and even giving confidence, because they are also individuals. And I think I'm glad that that statement is coming now from all the political players, and I hope Chebukati and his team, now that they're fully constituted, will live up to the expectation of the people of Kenya and apply the law ruthlessly, without fear, without favor, and ensure that we get a credible election. When we conduct a credible election, let me say this is how this works for the people of Kenya, and how this brings in the issue of the interest of the international community. Kenya is not a pariah state. Kenya is not a permanent republic. Kenya is a responsible member of the international community, in particular the UN. The UN is a system. So meaning whatever we do in terms of stability, and remember, when the only positive aspect that I can pick from what Governor Kimemia has said, the interest of the international community is stability, tranquility, and peaceful transition. That is good for everybody. It's good for Kenyans, it's good for the international community. And remember, as a country, Kenya is a diplomatic hub, unique in the region, unique in Africa. Kenya is a humanitarian hub. Look at the region. Look at Somalia. Look at what happened in southern Sudan. Look at what happened in Sudan. Look at what is happening in Ethiopia right now. Meaning, therefore, Kenya is not an ordinary state. That's why we call it a premier republic in the context of what has happened globally. Kenya is a communication hub. You only need to, we do not need to demean ourselves. Kenya is an economic hub. All this has an infusion of the interest of the international community, and that's why we have diplomatic representation. Diplomatic representation meaning, therefore, that our interests must be taken care of in a very diplomatic way with what we do with other, civilized states. That's why.
All right, Dr. Kainan.
Yes.
And I see the Nation. Just hold on. The Nation reporting that according to the CA Acting Director General, that is Masu Wanjao, that the 3G, 4G connectivity has shot up to 96.3%, saying that only 3.7% of the country is not covered. I don't know how many those polling stations would be, bearing in mind that IEBC is just about to increase them. But also says that the sub-locations that are yet to be connected, they will be facilitated through the Universal Service Fund, and they're reaching out to the telcos to also boost the capacity in another 101 sub-locations. But as we reflect on this, we know that IEBC is to begin the mass voter registration on the 4th of October 2021, that is next month, in a week's time or so. What is the expectation, Dr. Wamalwa, as we go into this phase that it's quite the election preparations proper?
Thank you very much. Before I answer that, allow me the context of the international community, because my colleagues have spoken here and it can be taken out of context.
Right.
The international community, its responsibility is to ensure that the processes are free and fair, this objectivity. But there's no way the international community can dictate.
What is the mandate of Kenyans?
No, to help in seeing the processes. But from what my colleagues have said, it's coming out as if the international community can decide that you should elect so-and-so to be the president. But I think the clarity I want to put across...
Just hold on.
The clarity I want to put across is this. Kenya, it is true, it does not exist in isolation. Kenya is a signatory to many international treaties as far as democracy is concerned. Yeah. And it's true. One of the responsibilities is to ensure free, fair, credible elections. That's it. But when it comes to specificity in terms of who should be the next president or whatever, I'm looking at the context of Kimemia. From Kimemia's observation, it's like the international community can dictate. It cannot dictate. It only helps in ensuring the processes are free and fair, but Kenyans have a right
Dr. Wamalwa,
to vote whoever is their preferred candidate.
Indeed. If the international community is to have an influence or
in ensuring free
and fair. Of course, you ensure through financing and support in some way.
Yes.
Doesn't that then bring that culpability or vulnerability of a country being influenced by the same international community?
I don't think so. Because when you say the influence, it's like you are saying, as we support you to have free and fair elections, you must be able to elect so-and-so, the one that we're going to decide. That's what I'm trying to demystify, that that's not the case. They only help in ensuring the processes are free, fair, and credibility. It can be supported through maybe issues of civic education, maybe helping in matters of civic education. They can also recommend when it comes to these things of procurement. Like we have some international firms which have been banned. So let me answer now what you asked me.
I'll get back to you.
No. Let me answer. Let me answer what you asked, because I said let me mention this, then I answer. So let me answer because you asked me the question. Okay, the question, the issue is just a minute, please. You've mentioned about the issue of voter registration. From statistics, IEBC has only registered about 100 or 200,000 voters since the last general election. But when you look at the issuance of the new IDs, the Kenyans who have been issued with IDs, it's almost going to 7-8 million. This is to tell you that we must have massive voter registration. But the unfortunate thing is, what Chebukati they have said is they've not been maybe funded fully for purposes of mass registration, whatever it is. But the issue is this. When IEBC comes up with a budget, it comes to Parliament through the Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. So I don't think Parliament in any way, because Parliament in the presidential system is a budget-making house. So long as they come up with the itemized budget and they give justification, the issue is justification. And once the justification has been given, for instance, like now, we have almost 7 million Kenyans who have not registered as voters. And the decision is going to lie on the youth. So we are calling upon IEBC to roll out massive voter registration. If it's an issue of budget, please give the justification. And I have no doubt that the Parliament will approve that budget so long as it's justified. And Treasury must prioritize this by funding IEBC so that we don't have these alarmist statements that are sending panic to the Kenyans that there are signs of trouble. There's no trouble. When it comes to legislation in Parliament, Parliament has prioritized
Okay.
All the laws that are relevant when it comes to elections. I only know about maybe the Elections Act, which maybe is undergoing some few amendments, and very soon I'm sure will be done with it. The IEBC Act was already done. When it comes to campaign financing, I think it's already been done. So Parliament has done its work.
Okay. And Dr. Omalo, you appear to be attracting a lot of attention and feedback from the online community. We'll be getting to them shortly. But there's a point I want us to tie, because he says that the international community can help in facilitating a free and fair election. And in this country, we know that comes through systems, through support in voter education, through observation missions. But to what end, Honorable Pio and I, if you're to be a realist in this country?
When it comes to matters of technical support, every other country would always seek such support from whichever other quarters or other country. And so Kenya is not an exception. Okay? And we shall continue to get that support. The only issue here is, can that support be tied to something else? That is what we are saying no to. Okay? And I've got no evidence that it has ever been tied to anything before. Okay? What I say that I want to repeat for avoidance of doubt is that we cannot stop the international community from having interests in matters concerning our own elections. That would be deluding ourselves. Because our elections, and therefore our stability, have a bearing on the international community, to which we belong as a family member. Okay? So that must be understood. And we cannot again say that we are so much endowed that we are not going to seek for support from any other person. That again will not be possible. And therefore, as I conclude, actually, because I think time is running out.
Right.
We are going through a very interesting transition. But this election will come and go, just like others have done before it. Okay? What's important is that we have got a country that we need to nurture for this generation and the coming generations. That is very important. And every responsible leader, every leader worth his salt, must work towards ensuring that Kenya emerges stronger after these elections, regardless of who is eventually declared the winner.
Right.
That is very important.
Okay. And of course, the same story on the Daily Nation will tell you about what the Commission has been complaining about, that the National Treasury has always slashed their budget by more than a third, quoting 35.2%. And Wafula Chebukati is on record, even in previous interviews with Citizen TV, saying that every time they presented a budget, for instance, for the management of Kim's kits, it was slashed. When they presented a budget for the payment of pending bills, it was slashed by the National Treasury. It leaves them pretty exposed. They still don't have a fund that is independent of the National Treasury. But this is a continuing conversation. I want us to quickly look at the feedback that has been coming to us via Twitter. We begin with Anthony Khan, who tells us that Honorable Chris Omalo, tell him that the deep state, if it so exists, seems to be more concerned with the presidency than other inferior positions. Thus, it's not proper to just wish away Governor Kimemia's sentiments on the same. That is Anthony Khan. Rain Samo, Dr. Chris Omalo is dishonest. The international community is a key component in succession politics in Africa and developing countries. He should read on state and non-state actors on political successions. Jenga Wakongo, our problems as Kenyans is denying what's real, burying our heads in the soil. Governor Kimemia, having a vast experience in the running of government at State House, he well knows whether deep state exists. Deep state existence is there. I don't believe that he can make unfounded claims on such an issue. Kenneth Njihia, corruption, this is on KEMSA, is a big problem in Kenya, where culprits go free without taking responsibility. KEMSA scandal is one of them, where culprits are enjoying the loot. Engineer Lazaro, the long-awaited prosecutions of the KEMSA fugitives will lead to a lot of speculations and rumor-mongering. I don't know who is the fugitive. Kisui Philip, the elephant in the room is that is Parliament well respected by other corruption prosecutorial bodies to the extent that the investigation reports can form strong basis for prosecution? He's asking a question. That is Philip. Jacob Abere, KEMSA probe is going to disappear to thin air. if indeed we had to kill scandals in this country, more so on government agencies, we need to scrap boards and remain with secretariat. It is common sense. Board members are conduits of stealing. But unfortunately, some of those people that have been mentioned by the PSC report are actually members of the secretariat. Gentlemen, Dr. Eden Kenan, Dr. Chris Omalo, and Honorable Pio Andai, thank you so much for making time for us. Ekuru Okot was not able to join us. He had other engagements this morning. He made it known to us in the morning, and that's why we didn't have him. The conversation continues. Up next is Sporty Monday. See you again tomorrow with another series of conversations around the country and the making of an election. My name is Sam Gituku. Bye for now.